Hey guys, welcome to this video, where we will be ranking all 60 achievements in Rage from easiest to hardest. A few disclaimers. Firstly, this video will more likely than not have some types of minor spoilers in it, so you've been warned. Nextly, this list is solely based on my opinion and experiences while playing through Rage. It is entirely possible that your personal rankings of the achievement difficulties would vary greatly from mine. Feel free to tell me what issues you faced in Rage in the comments below. The easier half of this list will be mainly focused on achievements that you'll pick up from natural game progression, or would more than likely unlock on their own. The harder half of these rankings may not necessarily stem from just the pure challenge of the task, but may also take time consumption and inconveniences into consideration. This will also have no consideration of the unlock percentages because, although a neat statistic to see, these do not portray the accuracy of how hard achievements are. Overall, Rage is a very easy completion for fellow achievement hunters. The game only took me about 30 hours of playtime to reach that sweet hundo %, and even the hardest this list has to offer are nothing more challenging than what an average game has to offer. Without further ado, let's kick the rankings off with number 60 on the list, Ghostbuster, for completing the Ghost Hideout. What else is more deserving of the easiest spot than the very first story progression achievement you can snag? You can't even do anything else in the single player story before knocking this out. At number 59 we have Waste Management, for completing the Wasted Garage. Probably not hard to assume that the second achievement picked up from the story progression ranks as the second easiest. At 58 is Cavernous Stumble, for completing Hagar Caves. Now this is technically not something you'd get naturally. This is the first achievement available from the Scorcher's DLC pack. Now one could argue that this could be placed several ranks higher since it's an optional mission, but I'm basing this on a playthrough where the DLC is played alongside the story. Since this is available right after the Ghost Hideout, but still requires the DLC, it's fitting to have it just higher than Waste Management. At 57 we have Rebar Pie, for pinning an enemy to a wall with a rebar shot. Also not 100% guaranteed naturally, but still super easy. You get the nail, rebar, rail, gun thing from Sarah after doing Hagar Caves, and you're likely to get this on your first chance testing it out. Any enemy shot with rebar next to a wall will get you the pin. At 56 is Plans Refined, for completing the Refinery. Another story progression mission in the Scorcher's DLC. This is the next achievement unlock assuming that Scorchers is being played alongside the main story, and this is the last progression achievement before reaching Wellspring. At 55 I placed Leadfoot, for winning your first race in the campaign. Sounds like it's optional, but this is actually the next step required to progress in the story, as you need racing certificates to arm your buggy for a main mission. At 54 we have Decapathon, for getting 10 headshots with wing sticks. Definitely not an automatic achievement if you never use a wing stick, but if you're like me then you're using them almost more than your main guns. Wing sticks are available immediately at the start of the game, and are such a good staple item for so many missions, and you can be so lenient when aiming and still get a headshot, it's kinda hard not to pick this up. At 53 we have Gladiator, for completing Mutant Bash TV. Nothing more than the next step in Rage's main campaign progress. At 52 is Bringin Home the Bacon, for finishing a round of Mutant Bash TV with at least $750. This is pretty easy to round up on your first run of Mutant Bash as it's based on good time and good total accuracy. Many people will often find the shotgun to be a nifty tool to dispatch the oncoming bum rush of mutants with anyways, and due to the damage output and hard to miss spread of the shotgun, these two criteria are not hard to manage. At 51 is Thrash Canyon, for completing, you guessed it, Bash Canyon? Wait, what? Once more, this is just further progression of the Scorcher's DLC story, and is even started in the same place as Mutant Bash. This could be interchangeable, but I give it that extra bump for being DLC required. At the neat rank 50, I've placed Arts and Crafts, for crafting 10 items. Again, this placement can vary depending on how much attention you pay to the crafting mechanic, so take it from me as someone who did not frequently use it. Even 10 crafts is easier to do naturally for just making a wing stick here, then a lock grinder there, etc. At 49 we have Passive Aggressive, for earning 3 kills with a single sentry bot. If you didn't neglect crafting, just a single bot out of curiosity, then you pretty much got this in the bag. No matter where you let your sentry bot roam, it's almost guaranteed to handle itself well enough to dispatch 3 foes near you. At 48 is Debunked, for completing the Shrouded Bunker. What can I say, it's the next step in the main story progression. At 47 is Rite of Passage, for completing the Wellspring Tunnels. Nothing more than the next step of progression in the Scorcher's DLC story, so why not place it just after the previous main campaign achievement? At 46 we have Fired Up, for completing the Scorcher's base. And this is actually the last achievement you'll get for progression in the Scorcher story, and could be considered the DLC's equivalent of a complete campaign achievement. At 45, I put Open-Minded for getting 10 headshots with the sniper rifle. This actually requires a little bit of effort beyond natural play, but there are some setups that help boost this count. Namely, blowing up the wall to Wellspring and doing the sniper cover job board missions in Wellspring. Both of these combined help me net Open-Minded pretty early on. At 44 is Mr. Oddjob for completing 5 job board missions in the single playthrough. If you're checking and doing the job board as you go, then you'll complete your 5th quest pretty soon after the Shrouded Bunker main mission. There's nothing inherently difficult with the missions, and it's reasonable to believe that a half-thorough gamer could snag this by accident. At 43 is It's Alive for completing daeD City. Nothing fancy, this is the next step of the main campaign. At 42 we have Silent but Deadly for getting 10 stealth kills with the crossbow. Certainly the more difficult cousin when compared to 10 sniper or wingstick headshots, however it's still easy to pick this up as you go. The crossbow is super fun to use and play with, and the introduction to the mechanic of killing enemies in water with shock bolts in the well is a fun way to greatly boost this total through just playing. At 41 is Wellness Plan for completing the well. I'm running out of things to say here, this is just the next step in normal story progression. At 40 is Jetpacker for killing an authority enforcer while he is descending with a jetpack. Although very specific and niche sounding, this is quite obtainable and easy while doing the authority prison mission. If you don't happen to get it by accidentally blowing up a jetpacker with an EMP grenade to kill a generator, you have ample opportunity while fending off authority waves in the courtyard with the turret. At 39 we have Jailbreak for completing the authority prison. Yeah, it's just the next step of story progression. At 38 is ytiC for completing daeD City Reverse. Again, the next step of progressing in the main campaign. At 37 we have Mutie Blues for completing Blue Line Station. The first achievement for natural progression you'll get in the second half of the game, starting in Subway Town. At 36 is Vault Assault for completing the Gearhead Vault. Another main story quest you can't miss, bestowed upon you by Redstone. At 35 we have Power Struggle for completing the power plant. We're starting to reach just an inchling of difficulty set in the massive armored enemies thrown at you during these missions. Regardless, this is still story progression and can't be missed. At 34 is Decrypted for completing Jackal Canyon, one of the last achievements you'll pick up for natural game progression. At 33 we have Roadkill for running over and killing 10 mutants while driving. It may as well be natural progression considering the game throws a mob of mutants your way after you blow up a barrier that you need to drive through. It only gets this far up the list because your chance to get this is so late in the main game. At 32 is Hey, Not Too Rough for completing the game on any difficulty. Notice that I've just ranked almost half of this game's achievement list before even getting to just beating the game. A true sign to not let those unlock percentages fool you. This is the last guaranteed unlock you'll get just for playing. At 31 we have Hurt Me Plenty for completing the game on normal. Maybe I just assumed that the average gamer would play on the average difficulty. This is how I started my first run, so it's almost no different than beating the game in general. Right at the halfway mark of rank 30 I have Ultra Violence for completing the game on hard. This kinda settled here because, I'll be honest, I didn't know where else this would go. I never did a hard playthrough for Rage. For all the games I play, I tend to do a normal playthrough, and then I do a hardest difficulty playthrough. I ignore anything between normal and the hardest of hards, so this is really no different than the normal one. By default it just outranks for being hard as opposed to normal. At 29 is Tinkerer for crafting 50 items. This is still very easy, but since 50 seems a bit high of a number for normal progression, it seemed reasonable to place it just after beating the story. Once you divert focus to just buying or finding parts to hash out some crafts, it's nothing special. At 28 is Demolition Man for getting 100 total enemy vehicle kills. You get a fair share of your kills if you do the side challenges in the wasteland and participate in the combat races in the towns. It's not difficult, but 100 is still a fairly decent number to reach that may have you go back to combat races or certain areas for slight farming. At 27 is Dev Graffiti for finding the secret developer room. If you aren't using a guide, this could be real challenging to locate, and only the more thorough of environmental looters will get to it. Once you know though, it's a cinch. Just take a visit to the distillery in the second half of the game, find a valve tucked away in a dark corner, and crouch under a newly opened door. At 26 we have 3 birds, 1 bomb car, for killing 3 enemies with a single bomb car. In my opinion, this is one of the more likely achievements you'll need to specifically sort out. It's still pretty easy, but I doubt many people pick this up just by doing missions. You may need to craft a bomb car or 2 and revisit Mutant Bash TV specifically for this. At 25 we have Hat Trick, for killing 3 enemies with a single mind-controlled dart. This one is very similar to the bomb car, except you need to successfully stick an enemy with the crossbow bolt first, and then handle that controlled enemy, which is so much slower than the bomb car. Overall not too hard, but it may take a try or two. At 24 is Keep 'em Comin' for killing 5 enemies with a single sentry turret. Unlike the sister achievement involving the sentry bot that I placed 24 ranks ago, this achievement has 2 more layers that give it that extra difficulty boost. Firstly, the additional 2 kills required, and secondly, the fact that sentry turrets are vastly inferior to sentry bots. This may take a try or two to get the proper positioning down, as the turrets are quite fragile. At 23 we have Mechanocide for killing 100 total enemies with sentry bots, sentry turrets, and RC bomb cars. This is probably the biggest instance of farming you'll experience in Rage, as you'll probably have a ways to go to strike that 100 mark. Realistically, this is nothing more than just leaving a few mutant bash runs to a handful of crafted bots, but it still takes slight effort. At 22 we have It's Good for performing all 3 ATV field goals. This one is funnily unique, and our first collectible achievement on the list. Now there's not much collecting involved, with only 3 things to find, but they are really well hidden in the wasteland. You also need to take the time to perfectly align your drive in order to fling yourself through the goalposts. At 21 is Wall Hack for killing 2 enemies through a wall with a railgun shot. It's been a while since we had a Scorcher's DLC achievement pop up, so here we go. Wall Hack takes some patience in searching to find the perfect opportunity to dispose of 2 foes while X-raying through a wall. It doesn't help that the game tends to be finicky of what constitutes a wall also, so this may take some diverted attention to manage. At 20 we have Minigamer for winning a round of each minigame. All 4 minigames can be found in close walking distance within Subway Town, and you don't even need to beat the hardest round of each game to get this. Although the kicker is that if you don't accept your chance with the Strum minigame guy before blowing up the bridge in the main story, then you missed it! I had to load a game save hours prior and replay back up to this point because the game does not warn you that this is the case. At 19 is Deliverance for completing the final wave of Strum. Set aside the fact I just mentioned on how easy it is to miss the chance to even play this game, the last round requires you to memorize 18 consecutive notes and then play them back. That's some superhuman levels of memory, and it can be easy to argue that this should be on the top of the list. That is, if you don't have pen and paper sitting next to you to write the notes as you go. And with pen and paper strat in place, Deliverance rests easy here. At 18 we have Hardest Deck for beating teaG's hardest deck in Rage Frenzy. You'll need to do a lot of gathering for decent playing cards hidden in the wasteland before even attempting this, because teaG rocks some beastly decks. Then it's a matter of pulling out good moves and getting a little bit of good luck. This one is actually a fairly decent challenge, but it'll inevitably be a success after a few tries. At 17 is Jumper for completing all vehicle jumps in the game. You gotta find 18 drones flying around the wasteland, and then find the means to catch air and knock them out. Some of them require some very specific setup and aiming to nail right too. At 16 is Jumper's sister achievement, Master Chef, for finding all the crafting recipes in a single playthrough. With a total of 19 to get, some of these are rewards for finishing main or side quests, some are bought from vendors in the game, and some have to be physically found out in the world. In addition to the various means of having to get these, the Adrenaline Overdrive recipe in particular can be missed entirely and require a brand new playthrough if you fail to do the side quest for Ramos Outrigger before going to Wellspring. At place 15 is Rage Cup for winning all races in the campaign. Not gonna lie, some of the later rally races are a serious pain in the arse to win, even on easier difficulties. There are also just a lot of races to burn through between both Wellspring and Subway Town. At 14 we have Gotta Have 'em All for collecting all playing cards in the game. Compared to the other collectible achievements in Rage, this one is the juggernaut with 54 total cards to find. Thankfully an update later released allowed previously missable cards to be purchasable at vendors. It's still a lot of attention to have to pay to get this one though. At 13 is Just a Flesh Wound for finishing the last round of 5 Finger Fillet. The first 4 rounds have a clear pattern and doesn't require much focus to nail the timing. That 5th round though, oh boy, let me tell you what, it goes on forever. It has no rhyme or reason as to where your next stab is going to have to be. If it weren't for the miracle that is pause buffering, I don't know if I'd ever have this one. Even doing an exploit gets me stressing when attempting this. At 12 we have The Legend Begins for completing a Legend of the Wasteland. These are one-off co-op missions where 2 players can tackle a story loosely mentioned from the single-player campaign. None of these missions are difficult really, but the ranking this high on the list is based on having to find and schedule a time with another human being who also owns the game Rage. The difficulty of real life plays its role here. At 11 is Anthology for completing all Legends of the Wasteland. There are a total of 9 of these co-op missions to do. If you manage to arrange a buddy to do this with you, then you could probably convince them to stick around for all of them. Of course, by default, doing 9 of something is harder than doing just 1. Now we're entering the top 10, and at rank 10 we have a true legend for completing the Legend of the Wasteland on Nightmare difficulty. I hope that buddy you recruited ain't half bad at this game. You get 2 self-revives each, and can revive each other indefinitely, so as long as you take cover and use your first-person shooter smarts, this should be doable. At number 9 is No Room for Sidekicks, for completing a Legend of the Wasteland with no players getting downed. Maybe it's just me, but I thought a normal run with no revives was harder than a Nightmare run with as many revives as needed. Either way, the tactic is pretty much the exact same as if it were on Nightmare. At rank 8 we have Obsessive Compulsive, for reaching 100% completion stat in the main campaign. In order to do this, you need to complete the main campaign with all the job board missions done, all races won, all recipes found, all playing cards found, all vehicle jumps done, and all minigames won. Let's not forget that you can miss the Strum minigame and the Adrenaline Overdrive recipe, and nothing is worse than having to do a second 100% run because your first run was actually a 99.9% run with a single thing missed. At 7 is Lucky Charms, for betting and winning on green in the Roly-Poly minigame. Known as Roulette Wheel to normal people, this achievement is the first of 3 purely based on sheer luck and will unlock when it feels like it. Being restricted to betting on green gives you an 8.3% chance to unlock this on each attempt. At number 6 we have JACKPOT, for rolling 4 targets on the first round of Tombstones. This game is 3 rounds of rolling 4 dice to get 4 targets and win. The second of BS luck-based achievements, this one rocks about a 1.2% chance of success per attempt. Just keep rolling, that's all you can do. Breaking into the top 5, at number 5, is Foursome, for getting a 4 of a kind in video poker. The crown holder of the luck-based madness. You're looking at a success rate of less than 0.5% for each hand you play. Guys, I was at this for almost 3 hours, I'm not joking. Although it's not hard to just play cards per se, it is deserving of the number 5 rank for driving me to insanity. At number 4 we have Rage Nightmare, for completing the game on Nightmare difficulty. Now I know I'm kind of breaking my own rule about the in-betweener difficulty levels and their ranking, and this kind of gives away what's at spot number 3. But without the Scorchers DLC, this is the hardest difficulty level available in the game. Therefore, it should sit right next to its older brother at number 3, which is Night Terrors, for completing the game on Ultra Nightmare difficulty. The piece de resistance of the Scorchers DLC. This is the purest achievement in terms of sheer difficulty in the game. Now don't get me wrong, compared to other games, this game's hardest doesn't stand up to other games' hardest difficulties. You get a lot of outings in the form of bandages, self-revives, health and armor upgrades, etc. Now with 2 spots to go, these last 2 achievements crack the top by other means of difficulty. So for number 2 we have Fresh Meat, for completing a Road Rage match. This is Rage's online multiplayer version of the campaign races. Of course, just doing a race sounds like a cakewalk, but in 2019 times there is no online community at all for this game. Literally 0 people playing, and you need 4 people to start a race. So go back to where I mentioned real life playing a factor in difficulty, and try to find 3 other real life people with this game, and the willingness and the ability to play the game at the same time as you. So taking my place at the number 1 hardest achievement in Rage is MVP, for coming in first in a Road Rage match. This piggybacks on the merits listed from the number 2 spot, but with the addition that you have to come in first in the race. This places it first on my Rage achievement difficulty ranking. And that sums up my personal rankings of Rage's achievements from easiest to hardest. Let me know your personal thoughts about these rankings in the comments below, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more achievement ranking videos and best of compilations. Also, follow me at twitch.tv/scooterrealm to watch me and interact with me live as I earn achievements for other games and future videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys next time.